I am Steve Snyder, and for those of you that were here last night, you know my background. I'm an attorney. Don't hold that against me. I'm not that kind of attorney. I'm nicer than that. I have a 30-year history in assisted reproduction in the United States. And I am the leader of the American Bar Association Assisted Reproductive Technology Group. So I work with attorneys all over the world to make sure that people like you can have children. And we work both through legislation and agencies and other aspects of the process to make sure you do it safely and can be economically accessible to you. Those are important things. I also run an agency. The agency is 30 years old. I'm the third director. I'm still suffering from jet lag. What can I say? So the agency itself has a great deal of experience. If experience is important to you, there is no one more experienced at this conference than us. The agency is 30 years old. I've been doing this for 20 years, and that experience has taught us many lessons about what you need and what you want, and we are very committed to trying to provide that to you. So I'm going to talk to you mostly about the agency. If you have legal questions, you may ask them. I've told some of you this, but most of you don't know this. I started out my life as a high school English teacher. So I wasn't always a lawyer. I actually had a job that had some social value at some point. And I very much respect teachers because I think they are the most undervalued, important people in society. And I absolutely believe that. I also believe education is the most powerful tool. So I'm very bad at what I'm supposed to do for the next half hour. For the next half hour, I'm supposed to convince you to work with me, and really what I'm going to do is educate you about what you should be looking for. And if that education leads you back to me, that's a good thing. But if it leads you somewhere else, that's also a good thing. So I'm here to answer your questions. Do not be afraid to ask me questions while I'm talking. This is not a one-way street. I'm trying to serve your needs. I can't do that unless I know what they are. So if you have questions, ask me your questions. Okay? Now, you're all trying to have children. You all want to have enough money when you're done to raise them, so you don't want to spend all the money you have having them. That means you're looking for cost-effective ways to do it. Some of you are also looking for socially responsible ways to do it, and that raises a different set of issues. Some of you are looking for a relationship with your carrier, your surrogate. In the United States, that is a very simple, normal part of the process. And of the people that have come through our agency, I think one of the most valuable things they take away is a lifelong relationship with the woman who helped them on their terms. If they want very little contact, they have very little contact. But if they want a lot of contact, they come over here and visit and have a lifelong relationship. That is something that is not available in all locations. The other thing about the United States is that we've been doing this longer than anybody else. We've learned a lot of lessons. We've learned that the participants need to be educated, they need to be voluntary, they need to be reliable, and we do psychological evaluations and all of the screening and testing to make sure that when you start a process, you understand what the issues are, your surrogate understands what the issues are, your egg donor understands what the issues are, and everybody's being treated respectfully. That's an important thing to me as a professional. It should be an important thing to you as a parent. However, it's still going to come back to whether you can afford it. How many of you have heard how many times that surrogacy in the United States costs $150,000? Raise your hand. All right. How many of you believe that? Raise your hand. All right. Well, I'm here to tell you that's not true, that there are ways to change that, okay? You may not all be able to afford surrogacy in the U.S., but I think a lot of you can. And here's how you do it. The question I get most often is, You say you can do surrogacy for under $100,000. You say you can do it for under 90. You can say you can do it for under 80. How do you do that? You must not do something that other people do. We actually do more than everybody else does for a lower cost. So, if you want to do surrogacy cost effectively in the United States, you have to have an agency that knows where the points are that you need to control your costs. So what are those? The first thing is medical costs. That's 50% of your program. U.S. clinics are expensive. Doctors charge a lot of money. So what we do is we actively go out and lobby doctors to understand the economic pressures on you and to find cost-effective programs. One way we do it is that we use clinics outside the United States. So if a U.S. doctor says, well, I'm not going to lower my fee, I say, well, I have a doctor in Toronto that will do it for 30% less. So we also have clinics in Toronto that are much more cost-effective than clinics in the United States. So if cost is an issue, you can do a shared program. How many people know what a shared program is? It means that to reduce the cost of an egg donor program, you and another couple will hire one donor. That donor will be stimulated. You will split the eggs. You pay half the medical cost and half the donor cost, so your cost goes down. And you take half of the eggs that the donor creates. That's one way of controlling costs. If you do a shared program in Toronto, that's the lowest medical cost you can have. If you do a shared program in the United States, that's the lowest medical cost you can have in the United States. The power of our agency is that we don't work with one or two clinics that are our clinics or that are our associates. We have dozens of clinics all over North America and in other places so that we can match you with the clinic that has the best success rates, if that's important to you, that has the lowest cost, if that's important to you, that has the physician with the best personality, if that's important to you. And if you want the cutest physician, it's Mike Vero in Toronto. I just know. So there are different factors that you will use in selecting your clinics, correct? And what our job to do is make sure you know what the factors are and you know which clinics have which factors, so you get matched with exactly the right doctor with exactly the right cost that's within your budget. I am trying on your behalf to talk to doctors at every opportunity to get them to understand that at some point they have to stop charging you money. In other words, if an IVF cycle costs $35,000 and you're not successful, they can't charge you another $35,000 to do it again. And if that one's not successful, they can't charge you another $35,000 to do it again. Because what you're afraid of is getting in the middle of a program, running out of money and not having a baby. So what we try to do is make sure that won't happen by trying to change the system. So many of the clinics that we're working with are starting to get into this concept of trying to get a flat fee maximum amount so that you know when you start out where your maximum point is and you know whether you can afford it. So that clinic selection is the first piece. The second piece is we're in Minnesota. It's about 20 below centigrade there right now. If you come to Minnesota, don't come in the winter. Come in the summer. But in Minnesota, unlike California, does everybody know where Minnesota is? Yeah. Next to the Canadian border, right in the middle of the United States. California costs a lot more money than Minnesota. New York costs a lot more money than Minnesota. They call Minnesota flyover territory. People fly over it going from coast to coast. So in the Midwest, we have middle-class people with strong values that have good hearts that we educate to say, surrogate, for every dollar you charge, you price another set of parents who want children out of the market. If you want $50,000, there are 20,000 people that can't afford you. So instead of paying $30,000 to $50,000 for a surrogate fee. In Minnesota, you pay $15,000 to $25,000 for a first-time surrogate. That substantially reduces the cost, and we, again, as active militants in this area, educate our surrogates about the economic impact on you and try to find surrogates that act primarily from here instead of their pocketbook. And I think that's the kind of woman you want to work with. So that's the second way that we keep costs down. The third and most important way that we keep costs down is insurance. This is where I have a personal bias that I think you need to work with an agency that is either run by an attorney or absolutely has a very knowledgeable, deeply experienced attorney on their staff. The reason for that is the most complicated issue in the United States is insurance coverage. And you have two issues, really three, but two. One is the pregnancy and the care of the surrogate during the pregnancy. Who's going to cover those medical expenses for the doctor's appointment during the pregnancy, the delivery of your child, and anything that might happen to the surrogate as a result of the pregnancy? Okay? The second is, once that baby's born, and you have this slippery, wiggly little creature out and crying in the delivery room, who's going to pay for the care of that baby? Because, I love it when you all raise your hands. How many of you want twins? Look around! Okay. What increases in likelihood with twins?
Early birth.
Premature delivery. Premature delivery means a higher likelihood of a long hospital stay. Long hospital stay means big hospital costs. Who's going to pay those? You heard you could get a pre-birth order. Does everybody understand what a pre-birth order is? It's a court order in the United States that before the baby is born is entered by the court that says as soon as the baby is born, you are the parents, and that can't change, and the surrogate is not. Now, if you're afraid the surrogate's going to change her mind, that's a great thing. The likelihood is, and this is an important message, the last thing you need to worry about doing surrogacy in the United States is whether the surrogate is going to change her mind and want to keep that baby. That is your smallest risk. Out of 15,000 surrogacies that they monitored in the United States, 87 of them had any conflict. And 67 of those were parents who didn't want the children because they got divorced, lost their job, went bankrupt, the child was sick. Only 20 of them were surrogates that didn't want to give the baby up. That's less than 0.25%. The likelihood of your surrogate changing her mind, I can't put my fingers close enough together. The only person who can cover that baby for you is the surrogate. And the only way she can do it is if she remains the legal mother at birth. So that technically, as the legal mother, her child is an eligible dependent under her policy. So we work, I read every insurance policy of every surrogate before you ever see her profile. I know every word in her eligible dependency clause. I know every word in her exclusion section. I know whether it covers surrogacy. I know whether it will cover the child. And if you are willing to be patient, because all of you are going to want a surrogate with that policy, and not all women have that policy, which means to lower cost, sometimes you have to be patient and extend time. Instead of getting matched with a surrogate today, you may get matched with a surrogate in 6 months. That 6 months insulates you from a $100,000 or more medical bill. Is that 6 months worth it? I think so. But the time is important for some of you, and that's a factor you have to balance. So if you get a clinic with the lowest cost if you get a surrogate that's been educated to reduce her fee, if you wait and are patient for a surrogate with excellent insurance that will cover all aspects of the pregnancy, what's the fourth thing that's necessary to keep costs down? One of two things. Either pure dumb luck, that helps. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Or a doctor that will cut costs off at a reasonable point. And I have one that's working on that, and I have a second that's working on that. So we're working in that direction. The reason I say luck is the fourth factor of cost is how many times do you have to try to go through an embryo transfer to get pregnant. If you're lucky, if you work with a clinic with a high success rate and it has an 80% success rate of pregnancy on a transfer using donors and surrogates, you have an 80% likelihood that that'll happen. And if that happens, cheap doctor, cheap surrogate, good insurance, first transfer, you're under 80,000 bucks. That's a lot different than 150, isn't it? But it can be done. But you have to have an agency that gets it and works for you. I can't promise you every one of you will have a combination of factors and the patience to wait to do that program. But what I can promise you, that every time you make a decision in your program, you will know how it affects cost, you will know what you can afford, and you will make a choice that keeps you in your personal budget. And we will make sure that we will be with you until the end of the process. Which brings me to what's different about our agency. Because I'm committed to you being successful in becoming fathers, our agency fee is $18,000. That is a hell of a lot of money. It just is. You guys shouldn't have to pay anything to have kids. I didn't. Well, a lot after she was born. She is in law school after all. However, the issue is that when you pay that money to an agency, it's hard to compare agency to agency to agency. So let's talk, what does an agency do for you? First of all, it should evaluate the insurance coverage of your surrogate. If the insurance coverage is not good, they should look for alternatives, and they should try to help you find a policy that will protect you. We include that in our fee. Most agencies do not. If it's not run by a lawyer, they can't. They're not lawyers. They can't offer you an opinion. If you go to an agency that's run by someone that's not a lawyer and that person says, I've read the policy, that's like hiring an architect to change your engine. Doesn't work. Well, they could be mechanically inclined as well. So you have to get the right expertise. The second thing is, you're going to need a contract with your carrier. Mine is 46 pages long. I've been doing this 20 years. Every time something happens, another clause goes in my contract. Eventually, it's going to be over 50 pages long. But it will be complete. We include the cost of that contract in the agency fee. Most agencies do not. If you are an international couple, some agencies charge a surcharge because there's extra work. We do not. If you get in the middle of your program and your surrogate for some reason cannot continue and you need to be matched with a new surrogate, some agencies charge you an additional fee for your second surrogate. We do not. We match you with as many surrogates as you need until you're done, and we never charge you another dollar. If at the end of the process the insurance company should cover it, but you have a $300,000 insurance bill and they don't want to pay it, so they initially deny coverage and make you go through an administrative appeal process, most agencies have to hire another attorney to do that for you. We do that as part of your process. It's included in the agency fee. You don't pay any more money. No matter how long your process takes, you never pay us another penny. Some agencies make you pay the full fee up front. We make you pay about less than half of it at the beginning. Another part of it when you sign your contract with your surrogate, And a substantial portion of it is not payable to us until your surrogate completes her 3rd month of pregnancy. So you don't even pay us completely unless we get you past the 1st trimester of your pregnancy. And if something happens then and you need to start over from 0, you never pay us another penny. We just do it over again for nothing. Because we know you have to have certainty. So what we do is we include absolutely everything. We will continue to work with you for years if necessary. Is there anyone in here that can attest to that? Just kidding. I had someone walk up to me yesterday and say, I want to be, he's a client of ours, and there was the personal stories panel this morning. He said, I want to be on that panel. I said, well, why do you want to be on the panel? He said, because I've been through 7 failed transfers and there's nobody I'd rather work with but you. I'm still with you and I trust you. That's a testament to what you do and how much you stay with your clients. So here's my biggest message. You're all sitting here and you think surrogacy goes like this. It starts out hiring an agency, and then it goes to getting a surrogate, having a successful transfer, being healthfully pregnant for 9 months and having a baby. It's a straight line. Boom. In a 1.5 years, I have a baby. Anybody tells you that's how it works, they haven't been doing this long enough. Because every surrogacy process, 10 or 15% actually go like that, but most of them have a blip somewhere along the line. You have a failed transfer, you have a miscarriage, you have a surrogate that drops out, a donor that doesn't take her medications, a donor that only gives 2 eggs instead of 20. Things go wrong because we can't control human nature, we cannot control Mother Nature, and we can't control the medicine. What you need is an agency at the points where it goes off course, because that's where they really earn their fee. They're the ones that fix the problem, get you back on course, and make sure you get to the end successfully. And that's what we do best. I have 14 people working for me because that's how many people I need to have the kind of customer service and contact and constant communication with the donor, with the clinic, with the surrogate, with you, so that everything goes as smoothly as we can humanly make it go. Experience, customer concern, and empathy, and cost control is what makes us different than everybody else. And I have the pleasure of working with my daughter, which is like my most fun thing. Do you have anything you want to add?
Well, that was very thorough. The only thing that I'll say is that I'm the one that you will actually be talking with and working with throughout the majority of your process, at least the important steps: picking your clinic, matching with your surrogate, matching with a donor. And so I hope to talk to anyone that wants to talk to me one-on-one, whether it's here or Skype or whatever. Just like my dad, giving information is really important, and I know how helpful it can be just to have a conversation about your particular needs and the questions that you have. So please come and see us. We have informational packets that you can pick up, and we have appointment slots, and we just love to hear your story and your concerns so we can hopefully help you at least a little bit in your journey. So.
All right, so I'm going to end on this note. I love my daughter. I want to give you this because I know what this means to me. It's why it's important to me that if you want this, that you have an opportunity to share this. I was the first one to hold her in the operating room when she was delivered. I was the one that she crawled over to and went up and went like this when I was eating watermelon, so I'd just drop it in her mouth. And I am the one that has watched her blossom into a beautiful, intelligent, best friend. You all deserve that opportunity, and I'm committed to giving it to you. So now I'm going to say something that some of you will believe and some of you will not, because it sounds crazy. Because I was a teacher, and because really I have a much more global view of this process than just as a lawyer or an agency owner, I care about whether you succeed. but I also care that the process is done safely and responsibly and ethically. You all have questions. You all have different needs. Everybody in this room is not going to work with my agency. I understand that. However, everybody in this room that has questions and needs information and education to figure out what your best choice is, whether it's us or someone in California or Connecticut or Thailand or Mexico or the Ukraine, wherever it is, we give free information. We will spend an hour and a half on a Skype call with you, and you can ask any question you want, and we will answer it without the necessity for you hiring us, at no charge, and without any expectation that you continue on in relationship with us. I am an education source. This woman here is an education source. You don't have to hire us to use us to help you follow your path. And I encourage all of you to get a card or a packet or a pamphlet with our email or our phone number on it. And if you have a question, even if you're going to Thailand, for example, I'm going to Thailand, I'm not using my sperm. Can I have citizenship when I come back? You better talk to somebody about that issue before you go, because immigration and nationality and citizenship issues are important. Before you start the process, you need to talk to an attorney in your home country to make sure you know what the end of the process is, because if you can't come home and be the legal parents and have the citizenship of your child, it isn't a success. So there are many things you need to talk about. There is much knowledge that I've gained over 20 years, and we share it free, because that's our investment in you and your process.